I'm gonna have to do the shot standing up. I didn't bring the tripod, but that's fine. Well, I didn't know we were gonna do this today.
I hate you. Look at this.
Yeah, case in point in this driver's seat right here.
That's not accurate. Man, that engine purrs, doesn't it? And we got a Subaru in front of us. Well, that's rare in Colorado.
Correct.
You know what? I'm going to pass this
Subarus
guy
and
up.
SUVs.
Because this is not going to go well for us. Downshift, right? What a usable car, right? Okay, this is my favorite of all of the M3s. And just listen to that engine. Regardless of which M3 may be your favorite, none of them sound nearly as good as the E90 M3. Just listen to that. And look how composed this car is. It's easy to drive. You can be a... Well, let me check on my watch. It is 4:59.
What do you think about the seats in this car?
I think the seats in this vehicle are outstanding.
I agree.
They're not too firm, nor are they too soft. And my favorite feature in the sport seats here is that you can adjust the bolstering.
And it holds you really well.
It holds you really tight. And especially, look, for a guy like me, okay, obviously I'm not small. You're getting bigger. You're really on the way to passing me up. I mean, you need to have some self-respect. I've lost all of mine. That doesn't mean that you need to lose all of yours as well, okay? But nevertheless, it's great to adjust bolstering, right? You're a skinny guy, you want the seat to hold you tighter, great, you can adjust it. You're a bigger guy like me, great, you can adjust it. If you're going to be in regular highway driving, you want to let the bolstering go a little bit, that's fine. Right now we're ready to do some spirited driving. We can adjust the bolstering, it holds you in better. I don't understand why more car makers, especially luxury car makers, do not offer this feature of being able to adjust your bolstering. I don't get that. And you know, I had the 335i, the E90 335i, and the seats in that car sucked compared to this car. It's the same generation of car, but they had no bolstering, and then it was non-adjustable bolstering too. So you would just swim in the car. These are next to the CTSV, which had Recaros that are proof for the existence of God or Vishnu or Yahweh or Allah or whatever you want to call it, okay? I mean, those seats were just divine. These are the second best seats I've ever had in a car. Now the gas light has come on, which of course, the fuel, if you care about fuel efficiency, you do not buy this car. This is a 414 horsepower V8 in a car that weighs roughly 3,800 pounds, and with me and Chris in it, about 4,800 pounds.
700 of which is the driver.
I will run us off a ravine. I swear to God I will. Let me get back to fuel efficiency, because yes, the fuel light did come on. The fuel efficiency on this vehicle is not great, okay? Again, 414 horsepower, 3,800 pound vehicle. I'm getting about 17 miles a gallon in fuel efficiency. And I usually drive it in the automatic mode. So actually, I don't think that's particularly bad fuel efficiency for what this car is. Okay, this isn't a Toyota Camry. You're not going to get 35 miles a gallon. What do you think of the ride quality?
It's very
Nobody
nice.
cares. Okay, let's try it again. What do you think of the ride quality?
It's very
Nobody
nice.
cares. All right, let's try it again. I promise I won't do it again. I promise. I promise. At my word. I'm not going to be like Lucy here with Charlie. What do you think of the ride quality?
It's very
Nobody
nice.
cares. All right. All right. Okay, this time, what do you think of the ride quality?
It's very nice.
See, I don't think, I mean, it's okay. It's a sporty ride quality, right?
It is.
But I mean, look, it's not meant to be soft, right? this is still a sports sedan, right? So it's not meant to be a really smooth, soft run. Now we're in manual mode, okay, and we're going to put on tighter suspension as well. Now, that's one of the great things too about this car. There's really only two adjustments that you can make in it. One, there's a power button. Now, the power button does not actually give you more power. What it does is give you better throttle response.
Just like the sports mode in the M5.
Right. So all you have basically is that when you press the pedal, it's more responsive. Okay. A lot of gravel over here, so we're going to slow down. Then the other thing that you can do is that there are 3 suspension modes. There's a regular suspension mode, then you can go a little tighter and sportier and a little tighter and sportier. And when you think about it, that's really all you need, okay, is a little better throttle response and a little bit better, tighter suspension. The steering does not have to be adjusted because the steering is already excellent.
Explain the shift response here.
So, that's right, I forgot. There is one more adjustment actually, and that is basically how quick the shifts are. Now that's just for the DCT feature. So if you've got it at the lowest setting, it's gonna run you through the gears really quickly. Okay, so, you know, you're gonna go from 1 to 2 to 3 very quickly, and that's going to be in order to, I think, increase efficiency. And because really for regular run-of-the-mill driving, you don't need quick shifting. But as you get up into quicker shifting, especially if you're going to track the car, which you absolutely can, by the way, then you're going to have really quick shifts with the DCT. Although, truth be told, if you were tracking the car, you wouldn't be in the automatic mode of the car. You'd be in the manual mode of the car. You don't, there's so little body roll in this car too. Have you noticed that, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're not being shifted around all over the place. There's some body roll. It's still a sports sedan. It's still meant to be used every day. But at the same time, you know, it's not uncomfortable, right? I mean, look, this isn't an S2000. It's not a Miata. Okay, you're gonna have, and it's a heavier car, so you're still gonna have some body roll. He's not using his blinker. Oh, see? He only used his blinker briefly, because, you know, BMW drivers, they don't use their blinker. So, you know, I think what happened is he started shifting lanes, okay, and then he knew, no, I'm going to be a cliche by not using my blinker. So then he turned on his blinker, but then he was reminded that he's a BMW driver and said, you know what, this really isn't like me.
And that lesser people don't need to know which direction he's going.
Yeah, so he was not fully committed to that blinker.
Yes.
It's true what they say about BMW drivers. They don't use their turn signals. But, you know, I do. I'm going to go into this lane right now. Look at this. I'm using my turn signal, using it, turning it off. Look at that. You see that? I will single-handedly change the culture of BMW drivers. Me.
We're setting examples here.
We are trendsetters. Mm-hmm. Okay? But now I'm going to cut this guy off, just like a BMW driver. No, never mind. There's a Dodge Charger behind us. I'm going to let the Charger overtake us. I'm just going to go slowly here. Have I ever told you how much I despise the Dodge Charger?
Yes, you have.
Has there ever been a person who's bought a Dodge Charger who has an IQ of more than 71?
Definitively, I can't say.
Has there ever been a person who's bought a Dodge Charger who doesn't have a sleeve full of tattoos?
With a spider web.
At least a spider web, yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here we go. Here's the Dodge Charger passing us up. Is he going to pass us up at some... Oh my God, I think he's got like tiger stripes on his Charger. No, I don't know what that is. He just bought it. Oh, you know, his plates are out of it. They've already expired. That is a typical irresponsible Dodge Charger owner. And look at this. He didn't use his blinker. You know, just because he's around a BMW doesn't mean that he doesn't have to use his blinker. Okay? Now he's changing the culture too, to something worse. I don't like him. I've never met him. I'm sure I wouldn't like him. You know? Today's November 16th. Okay? Look at this. And he's driving on the... he's probably drunk. You know he's had a bunch of Coors Lights by now. Look, one lane isn't good enough for this jerk-off. I hate the Dodge Charger so much. He must have bought that car for $9. Today's Saturday. That's not a good day to get my ass kicked.
No.
What do you think would be the best day to get your ass kicked?
Wednesday.
Why Wednesday?
Because then you get the rest of the week off recovering.
But you don't get the rest of the week off.
If you're in the hospital, you do. If it's a thorough butt kicking.
Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. Monday, I think you may be right on Wednesday. Okay, Monday is not a good day to get your ass kicked because nobody wants to be at work on Monday anyway, and that includes the doctors, right?
Correct.
So you get your ass kicked, you come in there with a broken nose or something, right? They're going to be, it's going to be a half-hearted attempt, and you're going to end up with a crooked nose after they repair it. Tuesday, people are just kind of sliding into their job. Well, that's not bad, right? Because let's say you got your ass kicked, okay, on a Tuesday, you could call in sick that day and then get the next 4 days off going into the weekend too.
Sure.
Wednesday, that's a good day. No, you're right, actually. Wednesday, for once, you've actually said something that I think makes some kind of sense.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
You're so broken that you could somehow manage to be right only once a day. There are two reasons that I'm not really going aggressively through these turns. Number one, I have winter tires on this car. And even though it is, about 51 degrees right now, first of all, that's not an ideal temperature for winter tires anyway, but you're not going to have the same kind of grip with winter tires as you would with summer tires or all seasons. And when it gets warm, I run summer tires on this car. The other thing is that there's a lot of gravel on the road. As you can see, there's still snow on the road, and the trucks are out here putting the gravel down. We do not use salt in Colorado, thank God, but you can easily lose traction on gravel.
It only takes one piece of gravel and you're off the road.
Okay, that's ridiculous. One piece of gravel is not going to hurl your car off a cliff. You know what? You don't know anything about anything, do you? Think about it. How the hell is one piece of gravel going to hurl a car off of this cliff over here? One piece of gravel.
All right, maybe that was a little extreme.
You know what? I think you have one piece of gravel inside of your head instead of a brain. One piece of gravel. Oh God, the piece of gravel! I hate you. Let's just... So my traction control light is coming on quite a bit actually while we're on this road. And again, I'm running winter tires, plus I'm running thinner winter tires. Stock, what comes in the back is 285. Right now, in order to adjust for winter, because this is my winter car, I went to different rims and I'm running 245s all around. So normally this is a staggered setup, which if I can remember is 285 in the back, 245 in the front. But here I'm running 245 all the way around. And by the way, this car thus far for me has been outstanding in winter conditions. So again, we're not going to go too fast through these canyon roads over here. But still, even with winter tires, you can go quickly over here and you don't never feel like you're going to lose the car. And even with the gravel over here, you don't feel like you're going to lose the car. Now, granted, I'm not going to go that fast through here because I may be stupid, but I'm not a complete idiot like Crescente. With his one piece of gravel in his brain, in his head. You know what? Actually, I was not nice to you. You don't have one piece of gravel in your head. You have two.
It's a really throaty engine.
It is a really throaty growl, right? And it just gets better and better, and the power band is so good. There is such an even power delivery with this car. It feels like you're just never going to run out of power. This is not a high torque car. You're not going to win drag races in this car. It's 295 pound-feet of torque, which is fine. But at the same time, it's not a drag race car. This is a car that's meant to be driven at higher revs, and it's very responsive at higher revs as well. And we're getting the traction control light to come on here, but I never, even here at higher speeds, I never feel like I'm going to lose control of the car. It is very balanced, very responsive, gives me a lot of feedback. I love the E90 M3. It's just a magnificent car. This is my favorite of all of the M3s. And just listen to that engine. Regardless of which M3 may be your favorite, none of them sound nearly as good as the E90 M3. Just listen to that. And look how composed this car is. It's easy to drive. You can be a hack driver. Let's move over and give this guy some space. You can be a hack driver and still drive this car at speed, even with winter tires. And with summer tires, I've driven through this canyon before. The car is absolutely brilliant.
Nom 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 nom. Nom nom nom. Nom 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 nom. I'll eat you.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, and in this case, I'm not talking about myself. I am talking about rod bearings. So get on Google and do a search for E90 M3 and rod bearings. You will find all kinds of stuff. So none of it good. My understanding is that when BMW built this car, the rod bearing clearances were not quite right, and that led to an oil starvation issue. As a result of that, you had roughly a 2% failure rate from what I've read. I don't know how accurate that is, but in any case, roughly a 2% failure rate on the rod bearings. Now you say, well, okay, that's 2%. That's really not that high. A couple of things to consider. Number one, that's on a lot of lower mileage cars. So we don't know when the rod bearings are going to explode. Maybe they can explode at 60,000 miles, at 80,000 miles, at 130,000 miles, or maybe they won't explode at all, okay? Number two, if the rod bearings do explode, your engine is done. It's finished. The rod bearings will send metal throughout the entire engine, and at that point, you're either going to brick the car or you're going to change the engine, which I absolutely would not recommend because this engine is a peach. I believe this is one of the best engines, if not the best engine that BMW has ever put into its common cars. Or you go ahead and you take out the engine and you swap it with another engine. An engine for this car, I've seen them on eBay, will run about $8 grand. I'm guessing to pull an engine and to put the engine and to put a new engine back in, you're probably going to be looking at a job of somewhere between $10,000 to $12,000. Okay, that is just one of the anxieties that you're going to have to live with in owning this car. Is it worth it? I can't answer that for you. For me, it is, because this is a brilliant car. I love this car. This is the only car that I've owned twice. I've owned dozens of cars in my life. I've never owned any car twice except this one. I had a manual version of this car first. Now I have the DCT, and I absolutely love this car. Do I have anxiety about the rod bearings? I don't. Okay. If they go, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. I still don't think it's that high a failure rate. Now, what can you do? First of all, do not cheap out on oil. Use the proper oil. Now, if you're going to go to a thinner oil, which some people have recommended, especially in the winter, still use a high quality oil, okay? And stay on top of your oil changes. Another thing that I do is every time I get an oil change on this car, and I'm religious about getting oil changes, they are done once every 5,000 miles. Let's go ahead and stop and get some gas right now. I do my oil changes once every 5,000 miles. I always go ahead and do an oil analysis through Blackstone. I tell my mechanic, say, hey, check the oil. Go ahead and send it over to Blackstone. Spend 20 or 30 bucks to do an oil analysis, and that may give you some information about whether the material that the rod bearings are made of, and I forget what it is, but you can research it, whether that material is actually chipping away. If it is, okay, then you go to the third thing that you do, which is that you can go ahead and get the rod bearings replaced. Don't go to the dealer. You should never go to the dealer anyway to get your car fixed out of warranty unless you're a complete moron. But find a reputable shop that can do the work. I've seen prices as high as $6,000 which I think is stupid. $4,000, which is more reasonable, but still stupid. Ultimately, I think that you can get the rod bearings done for about $2,500. The rod bearings themselves are pretty cheap. It's just a labor-intensive job. You know my favorite part of the interior? It's this thick, meaty. What was I talking about?
Steering wheel.
Steering wheel. Steering wheel. Thick, meaty steering wheel. Yes. This thing just feels so good. Like, it's just, this is my favorite steering wheel of all time. You know, I'm going to keep it right now in DCT mode. And I'm at the 4th level. There are 5 levels of DCT, which means it's still shifting quickly, but not shifting too quickly. And actually right now we're doing 60 miles an hour. We're in 7th gear, and it feels like a really civilized car, doesn't it, Chris? Yeah, this is right now a very comfortable car. You can drive all day in this car too. And that's the thing about the E90 M3, is that it is just a tremendously usable car. This car can do everything for you. If you want to do spirited canyon driving, no problem. This car will gladly do it. If you want to do winter driving, no problem. Like I said, this is my winter car. You could go with the 285s in the back with wider tires. They were just a lot more expensive for winter tires. But you can drive in the winter with this car. I went with the 245s in the back. They were cheaper tires, and I wanted to save my rims as well for winter. But either way, you can use this car in the winter all you want. It's a great family hauler. I take both of my kids to school in this car. If we go for a longer trip, the 4 of us can go in. Me and my wife and my 2 kids can go in the car, and nobody's complaining, because actually this is a car that doesn't feel small inside. This is when BMW had really mastered this build of small on the outside but somehow big on the inside. Like, Chris, you and I, we're not sitting on top of each other, right? We have a good amount of space in here, right? It doesn't feel cramped at all. Whenever my kids certainly don't complain about the space in the back. But before I put child seats in here and I had kids or adults in the back, nobody ever complained about the lack of room. It was actually plenty of room in the back for everyone. So, you know, and the car still has some luxury features in it. Now, I wouldn't say that this is, you know, a luxurious car. Okay, we're not talking about a 7 Series here or a Mercedes or an Audi A8, okay? But it's good enough. The steering wheel, as I said before, feels great, okay? Nowadays, a lot of companies are going to these Alcantara steering wheels, which is idiotic. Alcantara is a terrible material to actually have to touch. Yes, at first, it feels just fine. But eventually what happens is Alcantara, because it's garbage, will fall apart. So I remember in my CTS-V, I had an Alcantara steering wheel. And yes, it felt fine at first. It was actually a $300 feature for Alcantara, okay, which is fake suede. But really, after several thousand miles, it just matted down and it felt overly smooth. It did not feel good at all. It was crap, okay? So a good leather steering wheel like this is fine. Then, you know, you've got leatherette up here. This is what BMW calls their pleather instead of true leather up here on the dash. But it's fine too, because it doesn't crack and it holds up really well and it looks just fine. And you're not touching it all the time. You're not going to sit here and say, oh my God, this is really plush over here. Look at this look at this leatherette over here. This is the best leatherette. No, on the materials that you actually touch, BMW's done a pretty decent job, because on the handrails over here, you've got real leather. And before, there was aluminum trim on here, which was fine, I guess. But actually, I went on eBay, spent $100, and got the wood trim, which looks much, much better. I think actually it makes the car look much better, doesn't it, Chris? The other thing, now here, everything in here is kind of utilitarian, right? You've got, you know, kind of a basic cloth over here and on the headliner, but again, it's fine. It holds up well. Let's talk about visibility. Visibility out of this car, outstanding. You know, it doesn't have any of the nannies on there about, you know, any kind of lane departure warnings or any of this stuff. You just look in the back, you're fine. You see everything that you need to see in this car. This is really when BMW actually was making an M3 that was designed to be used every single day. I've owned four different M3s, two of the E90s, one with the stick and one with the DCT. Yes, the stick is more enjoyable, but I wanted something different, so I went with the DCT this time around. And I have found this to be easily the most usable BMW. The E36 M3, I love the E36 M3. This seems to be the red-headed stepchild of M3s, but people are wrong about that car. It's magnificent, especially because it is the best handling M3. The E46 M3, everyone loves that car. I do not. I sold mine a couple of months, actually, or a few months after buying it. I just did not love that car. But the E90 M3, I think, really was the last good M3 that BMW had built, and I think it's the last good M3 that BMW would ever build, because I'll get to that later, but the M3 ethos has completely changed at this point. And see, look at this car. Now you can drive just like a regular person, and it's an easy driving car. You don't have to be a car guy or car gal to enjoy this car, or to appreciate it even at lower speeds. It's just a great car. It's so balanced, so composed, so easy to drive. But at the same time, you know, I can easily right now, so we're going through these canyons right now, I drop it into manual mode, and immediately it's responsive, and I can drive at speed.
They did an excellent job of combining the benefits of a sports car with the drivability of a sedan.
That's correct. That's right. That's what this car is. It's a jack of all trades. It is whatever you want it to be. If you wanted to turn this into a track-only car, you could do it. If you want to just have it as a regular sedan that is fun sometimes, you could do it. If you're someone who is looking actually for an affordable car, on the used market, these things are great. So I bought this car with a little under 100,000 miles for $18,000. That to me is an absolute bargain. Now, the running costs on this car are going to be a little bit higher. Oil changes are about 200 bucks, okay? It uses, BMW only recommends one type of oil. I think there are a couple of other oils that you can use on this, but either way, you're using a higher quality oil. So we're going to show you right now just how much space is in this car. This is my younger daughter's car seat over here. I'm going to plant my fat rear end over here. Chris is sitting in my older daughter's car seat. You look comfy.
Oh yeah, extremely.
Nice. Okay. So I'm in my daughter's car seat.
I'm ready to go to Los Angeles. How about you?
I'm ready to get out of here, actually. Yeah. I will say though, okay, so look, first of all, okay, I'm sitting in a car seat, which in and of itself is, I don't really know what we're doing here. There's plenty of leg room though, isn't it?
Yes.
I just felt something break in the car seat.
You did.
If I broke my child's car seat, my wife is going to kill me. Let's do an acceleration run here. So good, and plenty of power, just so much power. All right, so to me, this car is a little bittersweet. Every M3 built up to this, and this was the 4th generation, was in its own way a great car. And this was the last great M3 that was built. And really, I think this was the last great BMW that was built, period. These cars were built from 2008 through 2013. After this generation of car, and really after 2008, I believe that every BMW outside of this one that was built is a complete waste of time. The 5 Series had been a waste of time for years already. The last good one that was built was the E39, and they stopped building those in 2003. The 7 Series had been a waste of time for even longer. The last good one that was built was the E38, and I believe those ran until 2001. Okay, and the last 5 Series, I think, was the pinnacle of the 5 Series. The last 7 Series was the pinnacle of the 7 Series. The last great 3 Series that was built was really, in some respects, the E46 3 Series, because I'm not a fan at all of the regular run-of-the-mill E90s. Like I said, I had a 335i with the Diamond package, and there were a lot of things to like about that car, but there were really a lot of things to hate about that car as well. But really, the last great M3 that was built was this one. I don't know anything about the 1 Series cars, and I don't care. Let's talk about alternatives to this car, competitors to this car. Let me first start by saying that there is no valid competitor to this car. If you want a compact sports sedan, it is an M3, and then it is everything else.